Today, we're going to dive into the lyrics of Chǔ, a really foundational genre of ancient poetry. But this isn't just about old poems. It's about the birth of a brand new, intensely personal voice, one that's just brimming with passion, sorrow, and this unshakable sense of self.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What kind of conviction does it take to say something like that? This one powerful line really captures the entire spirit of the poetry we're looking at. It's a declaration from a heart that just refuses to give in, no matter what it costs. We're going to come back to this line, but first, let's get a handle on where this revolutionary new voice even came from.
So you have to understand, the lyrics of Chǔ were a radical shift. Before this, poetry usually spoke for the group, for the collective. It served a purpose for rituals or for the state. But these poems, they introduced something totally new and kind of startling: the passionate individual I. All of a sudden, poetry became the perfect vehicle for one person's soul.
And the contrast here is it's night and day. Poetry went from this restrained, collective voice you'd use in a ritual to this explosive, raw expression of an individual's emotional world. The whole focus shifts from the story of a people to the allegorical journey of a single and often very sorrowful soul. This was, no joke, a revolution in how people express themselves through poetry.
Okay, so one of the central pillars of this poetry is the idea of a spiritual journey. It's often shown as a kind of shaman's quest, a flight of the spirit, searching for a divine figure or some lost ideal. You can think of it as an allegorical out-of-body experience, where all the poet's inner turmoil and frustrations with the world take the form of this grand cosmic search. But here's the thing, this quest doesn't kick off with some big heroic fanfare, no. It starts quietly and it's steeped in this beautiful melancholy. The poet's world is just filled with this deep longing for something that's always just out of reach, a feeling that's captured perfectly in the poem, The Lady of the Zhang River.
With an image like that, you can almost feel the chill in the air, right? You can see the leaves just drifting down onto the water. This isn't just pretty scenery, it's the poet's inner landscape. It sets this tone of beautiful sorrow that really runs through the entire search.
So yeah, this journey is not a simple walk from point A to point B. The poet's spirit literally takes flight, moving through both real and magical worlds. This whole shamanistic experience is an allegory for the poet's actual life. Often, it's about an exiled official, and his spiritual flight represents this desperate attempt to bridge the gap between himself and a ruler who just won't listen anymore.
This line really shows you the kind of power the poet has in this spiritual state. They're not bound by the normal rules of the world. They can cross the great river, not in a boat, but by wafting their magic. It shows this incredible ability to travel between realms in this desperate search.
And here's the tragedy at the very heart of the quest. Despite this magical flight, despite all this desperate searching, the divine figure the poet is looking for, they remain unattainable. The connection is never made. And that failure is the source of all the profound grief in these poems.
And this is the result. The quest doesn't end in a happy union. It ends in heartbreak. The poet is left all alone, just consumed by a grief that's born from this failed spiritual journey. And it's this intense, personal pain that fuels the emotional fire of the poems. So all of this deep inner turmoil leads us to another really key feature of these poems. The poets came up with this unique way to talk about morality. They used fragrant flowers and plants as metaphors for their own inner goodness, their virtue.
I mean, think about this concept for a second. It's fascinating. Good character isn't just some abstract idea, it's tangible. The poet literally adorns himself with garlands of fragrant flowers, making his inner purity visible for the whole world to see.
Here is a perfect example from the poem On Encountering Trouble. The poet isn't just putting on clothes here. He is clothing himself in his own virtue. The Selena, the Angelica, the orchids, these are all symbols of his noble character.
And the imagery is just so rich and consistent. It's like these poets created an entire vocabulary of virtue, all drawn from the natural world. Each plant carried its own symbolic weight, and together they formed this kind of fragrant armor of integrity that the poet wears through every trial and tribulation.
And the allegory goes even deeper. The poet tends to his principles just like a gardener, carefully cultivating these fragrant blossoms of virtue. So his greatest sorrow, his deepest pain, comes from seeing all his hard work wasted, his noble garden completely overrun by the weeds of corruption. Okay, so this brings us right to the emotional core of the poetry, this unwavering resolve of a virtuous person who has been cast out by the very world they are trying to serve.
Now, a central conflict in On Encountering Trouble is this fear of the fairest's fading. The fairest here is an allegory for the ruler that the poet serves. What's interesting is that the poet's anxiety isn't for himself, but for the moral decline of the very person he reveres.
You see, the poet's pain comes from witnessing this inconsistency. He's lost favor, not because he did something wrong, but because his lord has changed. He grieves the loss of virtue in his ruler far more than he grieves his own exile.
So what happens when he's faced with slander, rejection, total isolation? He doesn't compromise. He doesn't change his ways to try and win back favor. Instead, he readorns himself with his garland of virtue, doubling down on the very principles that got him into this mess in the first place. And now, we're right back where we started, but with a whole new level of understanding. This is the poet's ultimate declaration. His integrity, that fragrant garland he wears, that's what his heart truly delights in. He would rather die 9 times over than abandon it. This is the ultimate statement of an unwavering heart. So when you step back and look at it all, what's the lasting impact of this incredible body of work? Well, the lyrics of Chǔ left an absolutely indelible mark on literary history by creating a whole new way for poetry to explore the human soul.
So, to quickly recap the core features we've walked through, we have the emergence of the passionate eye, the allegorical spiritual quest, that rich symbolism of flowers representing virtue, and of course, the defiant celebration of personal integrity. Together, these things create a totally unique and powerful form of expression.
Ultimately, that's the key takeaway here. By turning inward and giving voice to the deepest sorrows and the highest convictions of the individual, the lyrics of Chǔ basically forged a new path for poetry, a path that countless writers would end up following for millennia to come.